was one of the first openings to come about here early in the spring, and obviously, when my contract wasn't renewed with Washington, it was time to start looking, and this was one of the opportunities that was for me, and the process took some time, but ultimately they chose me to be the head coach.
What type of team would you like to have in Belleville?
Well, we certainly want to be a type of team that plays aggressive, up-tempo style. I like to say that we play a little bit of a hybrid between Pittsburgh and Washington when I was coaching in Hershey, and ultimately that will be decided here over the next few months. And haven't even had a chance to sit down with the Ottawa staff at all yet and see how they tend to play next year as well. So a lot to be determined, but off the top of my head, that's how I'd like to certainly see how us play in Belleville.
Is it pretty natural for you to come here with your brother in your organization already?
Well, I think certainly that was an intriguing part of it. When you start, the three things that really happened here was, one, there's a lot of competition out there for jobs. There's a lot of great coaches, and you got to have a network of people to even get your foot in the door in terms of the interview process. And the teams I interview with, it was all through some connections and people calling on my behalf. So obviously, Trent's a good character reference for me, but certainly it was intriguing to potentially only work with his draft picks, because he's ultimately on the amateur side drafting players, and now I get an opportunity to take it to the next step and hopefully get some of these kids to the NHL. So that certainly is intriguing from my end. I did my homework before the interview process started in terms of who could potentially be back in Belleville, who were the grade A prospects coming in that could potentially be sent down, because obviously they all can't play in Ottawa. I understand that some of them will be in Ottawa, but at the same time there's only 23 roster spots here, so I haven't had a chance to see many of them play. Obviously in the American League, your schedule is very, very skewed to your divisional play. So we only played Belleville twice last year, so it didn't really give me a ton of opportunity to dissect their team.
Did the Capitals win the Cup? Was that a bit bittersweet, or?
Certainly bittersweet. It's one of those situations where the NHL team wins the Stanley Cup, and both staffs are being dismantled. So, at the end of the day, it was bittersweet. There was 14 guys that raced the Cup, including the Black Aces that were part of Hershey's run 2 years ago to the Calder Cup. So, very, very excited for the players. It was a lot of fun to watch that. But at the same time, when you played a huge role in that happening, I think bittersweet's a perfect word for it.
Do you know what happened? What happened in Washington?
In terms of from my perspective, it's hard to say. Longevity. Maybe I was there 8 years, 4 years as an assistant, 4 years as a head coach. Not quite sure, to be honest with you, in terms of the reasoning, but all I could do is move on to another opportunity.
In a perfect world, an AHL team wins a lot and players develop. I mean, is there a balance? How do you balance between winning down there and developing guys from here?
Well, the model that I'm coming from, you have to do both, and these players need to win to help them at the NHL level as well. Any type of playoff run for these kids, for me, is vital to their success at the NHL level, and I think that's one of the reasons. As much as Washington has been on the cusp of winning the Stanley Cup over the years, and there has been some disappointments, at the end of the day, several players winning a Calder Cup, several players going to the Calder Cup final 2 years ago, you cannot tell me that wasn't a big part of what happened to them this year, getting over the hump.